Hey, good morning, good Chodesh. Today is Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, the first day of Tammuz. A beautiful, gorgeous Tuesday morning. And we're on page 65 in the Chayinu, beginning a new chapter in Tanya, Shar Yichud Ve'emunah. Previously, we learned that Hashem is infinitely greater than the Sfiros, and that we cannot grasp Hashem's relationship and connection with what we call the Sfiros attributes. This chapter discusses the unity of the Sfiros, the divine attributes, with their source, which is Eibishter. Just as the sunlight is united within its source, the solar globe. In today's lesson, the analogy and term light, we always say, Oir Ein Sof, the light of Hashem. The term light employed by the Kabbalists for the Sfiros is merely for the sake of our comprehension and not an accurate definition. There is no real light. It's just a descriptive term that we give it. Concluding the previous chapter, we're in Perek Yud, chapter 10. The Alter Rebbe explained that since Hashem is infinitely exalted above intellect, and obviously it's impossible for us to try to understand the Eibishter. So the Zohar terms, the attributes, kindness, wisdom, and so on, he calls them the secrets of faith. For their union with divine is beyond mortal comprehension. If something is beyond our mortal comprehension and we say it does exist, so we say, it needs faith. And that's what we do. We believe that it's true, but we don't really understand it because it's beyond our comprehension. Come sit down. Nevertheless, what time? Okay, dismissed. I'll see you tomorrow. Nevertheless, despite the fact that the Sfiros transcend intellect and comprehension, which is how we ended off yesterday, that it has to do with emunah, that we believe that Hashem is one and Hashem is united with everything, and Hashem is the knower, known, and knowledge, and it's beyond our capacity. So the Torah speaks in the language of man. In order for us to be able to hear what is able to be heard. Otherwise, we would not have any relationship to be able to understand what is God, what is this whole concept. It doesn't make any sense to us. And therefore, the sages were granted permissions to speak allegorically of the Sfiros. That's why we could say that there's the light, the Oid and Sof. It's not light the way we might think of light. We see the sun coming in from the sky right now, and we think of light, but that's a different type of light. Note by the Rebbe, the use of the term mashal, allegory, stresses that the allegory and its object are not identical, but merely that there's a similarity between the relationship that subsists among the particulars of the analogy to the relationship that subsists among the particulars of the analog. There is, however, no connection at all between the analogy and the analog. I think I said the story once that I was zeichet to sit in one of Rabbi Lesh's Chassidus shiurim with some of his students who are a lot older than me, and they were asking him, and they were talking about the oiris and the Sfiros and the this and the that, and in the analogy, Rabbi Lesh was saying that it's like green lights and red lights and this. So one of the guys was like, if we go up on a spaceship, we'll be able to see the colors. Like you talk about green lights and red lights and whatever it is. He goes, it's just an analogy. And by the way, every time we bring a mashal and Tanya, you can find holes in it. An analogy, because it's just an analogy, and you can say, but that's not a good mashal. True, it's not a good mashal. We use the sun's rays as a mashal all the time. There's a lot of imperfections in the mashal. But we do the best we can to try to get a little bit of a glimpse. The Kabbalists call the Sfiros lights, using terminology borrowed from the revelation of light. This gives us just a little bit of an understanding of Hashem and His attributes, allows us just a taste and insight. Of course, it's only by way of illustration. Again, the example is given like the unity of the sunlight within the sun itself. The sunlight is not called light when it's in the sun. As it's written that Hashem created the great luminary, meaning the sun itself is the source of light. You don't say there's light inside the sun. The rays are inside the sun. The radiation, the light, and the beam which spreads forth and shines from the sun is called light. Because the pasuk says, and God called light day. However, when the light is within the source of the sun itself, it's united and absolutely unified with the sun. But there within the sun, you don't say there are the rays of the sun and the sun itself. It's just the sun. That's what it is. It would hardly be reasonable to say that within the orb of the sun there exists two things, the light and the sun. Within the sun itself, only the sun. When you talk about the sun, you don't say the rays and this, you look at the sun. You can't even hardly look at it, right? It's not safe to look at the sun. Right? I'm guessing, Ziggy, it's dangerous. So you just say that's the sun, it's over there. And everything else, the appearance of radiation and light outside the sun, it would seem to indicate that light exists within the sun itself, but you don't say there's two things. It's united. When the sunlight is considered at the stage with which it's found within the luminary, it's so completely bottle that it's not called light within the sun. It doesn't have its own independent existence. It's just the sun. Precisely. It's funny because we just said that the mashal is not exactly, right? Can't be. And there's no real light. It's just metaphoric. It's just spirit. It's spiritual light. And then he says, precisely in this manner. But again, it's the mashal, and even more so is the unity of, on the one hand, the attributes of Hashem and His will and wisdom in the world of Atzilus, with, on the other hand, His essence and being. So when we talk about all these different attributes of Hashem, His will, His wisdom, His kindness, His mercy, and His essence and being, it's all one, like as if inside the globe of the sun. They're all enclosed and united with perfect unity. Again, it's also not, when you think of the sun, you're thinking of like the sun itself. So you think of the Eibishter, you think of like with God. So, but that's everything and everywhere, including us. We're an extension of Hashem, so we're all included in Hashem. Since when we're talking about the attributes of Hashem, they derive and emanate from Hashem, just as we use the example of the light that comes all the way into this room. That's why we have to back up the table. So when it hits the camera, you can't see anything. It's very strong, but it comes from millions of miles down and spreads out, gets diffused all around. Nevertheless, despite its superior manner of unity, since one must modulate the ear, you have to be able to, if something is too loud when there's in the shooting range, or if you're on a flight deck, on these big aircraft carriers, right? You need to protect the ears because your ears can only handle certain things. So therefore, you have to be able to hear what you could hear. I'm talking about a loud noise, but I'm also talking about being able to understand. Nishpa v'nisboinen, v'mshal oir hashemesh, amiyucha debatel b'mekayiroi v'einoi oila b'shem klal b'fnei atzmai, l'hakshem hamakal avadoi. we can perceive and comprehend that just as in the analogy. The light of the sun, which is united with and nullified in the source, has no name of its own. It's just the sun. We just say Hashem. That's why we say Hashem, the name. And we don't start saying it's Oidos and the thing and Chesed and Din and Gura and all these different things. We just say Hashem. But only in relation to the creatures which are, note here by the Rebbe, below the world of Atzilus, meaning in Bria, Yitzir, and Asiyah. These creatures, even the angels, being both higher and lower, which are brought into existence and given life by Hashem, again, even the spiritual creations, Malachim, etc., angels, how are they brought into being? Through Hashem's will and wisdom and understanding and knowledge, which garb themselves in His holy emotive attributes such as Chesed, Gvur, and Tiferes. Thus, the Sfiris are termed Chachma, Bina, Das, wisdom, understanding, knowledge, kindness, severity, stringency, beauty, etc., in relation to the beings that are being created and being given life by Hashem through His will and wisdom and so forth, which clothe themselves in the emotive attributes. Kedisa Medrash, it's stated in the Medrash, by means of 10 things, the world was created. B'chachma, uvisfuna, visfuna, v'das. He says 10 things and he only mentions 3. By wisdom, by understanding and knowledge, etc. As it is written, and if you want to look it up, where is it? Doesn't say which Medrash. Oh, 319? What? Thank you, Nati. Gemara Chagiga, D'chsiv Hashem b'chachma yosad oretz, koinein shamayim v'svuna b'daitei tahoimais nivkao v'goymer, as is written in Koheles, Hashem founded the earth with Mishlei. Hashem founded the earth with wisdom. He established the heavens with understanding, with His knowledge. The depths of the abyss were burst open. So we see from the Medrash that the world was created by means of 10 things, meaning the 10 spheres. Oh, it says here, Chagiga 12, yeah. K'maimer Eliyahu da'pigas asar tikunin v'kodinon lahoin asar sfiron, as expressed by Eliyahu in Pasach Eliyahu. I'm sorry, excuse me. And forms of the introduction to the Zohar, you have brought forth 10 tikunim, 10 garments, which we call 10 sfiros. And Haga Bahain Olmin Sisimin, Velo Iskalion, the Olmon the Iskalion, Bahain is Kisias. So what did he do? He brought forth 10 garments, tikunim, which we call 10 sfiros, through which to direct hidden worlds, unrevealed, meaning worlds that transcend mortal comprehension, well above our understanding, and worlds revealed, meaning worlds that are accessible to mortal comprehension, whatever we see around us. And through them, you conceal yourself. We don't see Hashem in this world. From created beings, Hashem is concealed so that they will not be able to perceive the divine life force that creates and gives them chayas. So what's the takeaway? Light shines outward, but is closely connected with its source. Because if it was cut off, it would cease to shine. Hashem's attributes, therefore, are called lights, oiros, because they are also internally connected with their source. And of course, if there was any chas v'sholom possibility of them being cut off, we wouldn't exist, and all creations would cease to exist. So that we know that we're constantly and continuously always connected to our source, which is the Eibishter. Deep stuff, Kavra. Let's continue tomorrow with the continuation of chapter 10. We conclude chapter 10 tomorrow. All right, Yishkayach, a good Chaydish, everybody. Have a good day.